Well, hello there, and you join us here today to talk about dive watches, but not just dive watches, but the best daily dive watches in the world. Tom, I think we're both in agreement here that the one watch that you can wear every single day is more than likely going to be a dive watch.
Yeah, dive watches, everybody's favourite, the dive watch. You can't go wrong.
They can do everything. You can smack them about, you can dunk them underwater, you can wear them with a suit if you're feeling a bit fresh and fancy.
You can twirl the bezel all day long.
So Tom,
yeah,
I thought we could pick 10. You go for 5, I'll go for 5. We'll pitch them at each other. Dear viewer and listener, you're going to pick whether or not you think Tom's selections are better than mine, or vice versa. Tom, why don't you start?
For my first pick, I've gone with the Citizen ProMaster Diver. Now, as citizens say, command the sea in style with the ProMaster Diver. And presumably you can command the whales too with the power of this stylish watch, because the design is inspired by the majestic Orca. You can see the hour indices and indentations on the bezel are reminiscent of the shapes on an orca, the white spot on the eye and the grey saddle behind the fin and all that good orca whaley goodness. There's also a depiction of one on the back, engraved on the case back there. There's big, bold hour and minute hands and flashes of orange and red about the place, which make it really pop against the contrasty black and whiteness. It's 200 metres of water resistance, so good for a dive, one-way bezel, and a polyurethane strap, again, evocative of the Orca's fins, which is very, very cool. It's £329. It's a very, very striking watch that will add a bit of flair to your dive, but it's also just a very bold daily wear as well. I think it's awesome. I really like it. A must for whale fans out there, I'm sure.
Well, I'm glad you said it was supposed to be mimicking an orca, because when I first saw it, it made me think of those, you know how bomber planes sometimes have the mouth, the angry mouth painted on the nose to make it look like it's coming to bite you.
Oh, right. Yeah, sure.
The more I look at it, the more I think it's the gaping maw of an orca coming to bite your face off. It's like the last view a seal ever has.
Oh, yeah, actually, yeah. I can see some sort of hideous lamprey coming towards me now.
Yeah, with the orange tongue that's going to lick you to death. It's a big boy at 46mm, but sometimes that's what you want. You want your watch to take out every doorway you walk through.
Yeah.
Tom, to go in a slightly different and more reserved direction, perhaps you might have taken a look at the Tudor Polaris in the past and thought that's a nice watch, but at 42mm it's a bit too big for me. Well, Tudor answered your prayers because they came out with the Polaris 39, which is obviously a 39mm smaller version of the Polaris dive watch. It's still in titanium. It does have a lower water resistance of 200 meters, but I mean, what's a few hundred meters between friends? I think the maximum dive limit that someone's ever made with scuba gear is 300 meters anyway. So,
yeah,
you can buy the bigger one if you really want to go serious. But you also get the Kosk Caliber MT 5400 with 70 hours of power reserve, and they add for this edition that you don't get in the original, a lovely sunburst pattern on the ceramic bezel and dial. You also get the T-Fit clasp and a free rubber strap. And like the Black Bay Pro, the loom on this one are those little tiny, what look like communion wafer slices of ceramic that lie on the dial, which, I don't know, I keep coming back to wanting to put watch parts in my mouth, but these especially, I just want to pick them off and nibble them.
I think this should be a must for designers everywhere. You need to make your product look edible for maximum appeal. And yeah, those little minty hour markers on the dial really do that for me. So yeah, it's a great watch. It's very subtle. I love the darker titanium. It's not as flashy as steel. So yeah, really great, subtle, everyday watch. Yeah, that you could take for a splash as well.
It is quite a bit more expensive than your first, £3,850. But when you compare it to some of its competitors, I think it's pretty reasonably priced. And I think you're absolutely spot on. Let's see if we can correlate this with some more of the watches that we see coming up in this video. Do the good ones look like they're edible?
Yeah, perhaps not for my next pick. Now, while I was looking at Citizen, I stumbled upon this new ProMaster diver, the EcoZilla. Now, this is £499, so considerably more expensive than its Orca-inspired cousin. And again, now, it's interesting how you likened the Orca ProMaster diver to some sort of lamprey, because that's what I felt was going on here. Now, I likened it to either a TIE fighter cockpit window or some kind of sphincter.
And there are many to choose from.
Yeah, you've got this very unique looking bezel there with indentations. And yeah, this is a serious looking diver. It's very chunky, very hefty. It'd be a brave daily wear for someone if you were brave enough to pull it off. Sort of entering Panerai territory, I think, in terms of boldness there. You've got this hefty ion-plated stainless steel case, 3 big hands, 300 meters of water resistance, and a wavy rubber strap. And on the back, it's, again, got an engraving, this time of an old-timey diver's helmet on the case back. Yeah, but it's cool. It would not look out of place on a military professional diver's wrist there. But if you do have the bowels for it, you could wear this to the office as well, I think.
My experience of diving in cold water is you do get a tiny helmet, so I think that's pretty accurate. Tom, I also think the bezel indentations there, it gives me archaeological vibes. I want to go on an adventure to find the tool that meshes with that to unlock its secrets.
Yes.
Oh, it's so inviting. It just needs something. Oh, that's the other thing. Eating things is satisfying, but two things that fit together very, very well is also very satisfying. And I think Citizen have missed a trick here, even if you do seem to be on the payroll of Citizen with your 2 Citizen choices.
Yeah, they need to definitely come up with some sort of strongbox or safe that meshes with the bezel of this, don't they? So that you could... I don't know how you'd keep it in there, though. You put it in there once, and then you need to buy another one to unlock it. That's how they get you. Convoluted, but effective.
I'd like to have been in the business meeting where they pitched that. Like, hear me out. Tom, I'll see your £499 and raise you to a full £8,200 because I'm talking about the best daily dive watch for people with some proper wedge to spend.
Sure.
This is the Zodiac Polaris, and I don't think I really have to pitch this into you, but I'm going to do it anyway because I like talking about it.
Yeah.
This is based on the compressor case design with the internal dive bezel. Now, this was created around the 1960s, a design that actually increases its water resistance as the pressure of the water around it rises, which is a really clever idea. It's like you can imagine the lid on a biscuit tin, and the more weight you put on top of it, the harder it is to get to the sweet, sweet biscuits within. That's the principle for this watch.
Okay.
41mm, 11.2mm thick, so it's quite wide, but a very, very skinny bezel, so it all feels dial, so it doesn't wear too big. Nice stumpy lugs, and not too thick as well, so although it is a diver and it feels substantial, it still has that element of, I can wear this with other styles of clothing than jeans and a t-shirt. 100 meters of water resistance, so not the most accomplished of all the divers here, but still very, very effective. But the best thing about it, flip it over and you'll get to see the caliber 898, which, although it only has 40 hours of power reserve, it is automatic, and it looks absolutely stunning because, of course, it's a Zodiac. Now, Tom, I think this is one of the coolest dive watches ever, and I'm not just saying that because it's in blue, which I think should be the law when it comes to dive watches, that they should be blue. What do you think?
Agreed. Yeah, I love this watch. It's great. I love all the different finishing on it. You've got polished and brushed, and you've got the textured inner ring inside the dial. The light just plays on it so satisfyingly, and it just leads you into the center. It's just really, really great. It's just perfectly laid out all across the board.
Makes it very distinctive from a distance, but also not overly fussy. And I really like how the window in the middle is like a porthole looking out of a submarine into the blue abyss. It has a real depth and interest to it. Yeah. Perhaps it's the view that James Cameron had when he didn't break the world record for the deepest dive.
Leave him alone. Right. I'm going to bring it down a notch in pricing, back down to £470 for this Seiko Prospects Solar Diver. Now, this is a 200-meter dive watch in stainless steel. It's 42.79 millimeters, but that should wear like a 42.8 millimeters on the wrist. It's part of Seiko's Prospects collection. Now, Prospects is the combination of the words probably perspex, and that indicates that the dial crystal is probably perspex. Or it could be sapphire crystal, and Prospects means professional specifications. And that's what you're going to get. This is a solar-powered watch that charges from both natural and electric light, again, so we don't need to bother Timpsons. It's got a black dial with big readable markers, now more in keeping with what you would expect from a traditional dive watch. A vibrant bicolour bezel and a familiar case shape. With all of Seiko's experience as a dive watch maker, this is reliable, practical and durable. Yes, very, very nice.
Now, Tom, I don't care much for your casual slapdashery when it comes to estimating case diameters. However, I think although this probably wears a little larger than most other dive watches, it's kind of what you want when you want a daily dive watch. You want it to be robust and rugged and visible. And this has that. Look at the size of those hands. You could do your homework on those things. You could write all your little notes and cheat in an exam with them. They're so big. You're never going to worry about wondering what the time is in the middle of the night when you wake up wearing this thing. Once again, I'm always a little bit hesitant about the big X-Man logo and the solar and the number of different fonts they've managed to achieve. I don't know if they were working with like a trial version of a fonts package and they had to use as many as possible before the license ran out. But never mind. Overall, it's a really nice watch, and I really like the combination of blue and red on the bezel. It feels classic yet modern. It's like the GMT, but nighttime is 3/4 of the day, and I'm down for that.
Yeah, I like it. It looks like a temperature gauge. It's always hot between 12 and 3.
For me, it's saying go to bed at 3 p.m. Tom, I'll see your blue and red bezel and your £470 price, and I'm going to take that down to £176 because we don't all have nearly £500. This is the Orient Mako Kamasu Blue, and it's a dive watch from Orion, which we know makes some really, really great affordable dive watches. Now, there's nothing about this watch that's going to make you go, wow, what a gorgeous piece of machinery, what a lovely bit of watchmaking, but for £176, this is all about the spec. 42mm by 13mm thick, so it's kind of got a little bit of chunk to it, but you're actually paying for quite a decent amount of steel there. 200 meters of water resistance, which has been higher than even the Jaeger LeCoultre that we've seen here. You get the in-house Orient caliber F6922 and a sapphire crystal. Bung all that together for £176, and this really is the kind of daily wear that you can smash around in and not care the least bit in the world about damaging it, because if you break it, it's probably cheaper than a service on many of the other watches that we've looked at here.
Yeah, it's great. I like the smoky blue dial again, a must for a dive watch. Date, probably don't need a day on a dive, but handy in the office, so that makes it a great everyday diver.
Yeah, I think you're right. If you need the day on a dive watch, you're probably dead.
Awesome. Okay, well, I'm going to take the price back up a notch again.
Yes.
Some people have got money, Andrew, for God's sake. Now, this is the Breitling Super Ocean 42. That's 42 as in 42mm in diameter. You can go bigger, but I think 42 is a nice size. It's chunky enough for a robust diver, but svelte enough to get away with casual wear. This is £3,950. It's a Breitling, so that's where the money's going. It's also going on this beautiful, bold, clear-cut design. And there's a choice of vibrant colours, but I love this blue and off-white. You've got the concentric circles of the bezel, the inner dial ring, and then the dial itself. And that's kind of offset against these chunky, blocky square markers and this big blocky square on the end of the minute hand. Really love those strong lines, and it just makes it really readable as well. Very practical with 300 meters of water resistance. But yeah, again, just so stylish and just a fun, vibrant summer dive watch. Yeah.
This comes from the era of Sylvain Berneron, our friend and creative director over at Breitling, who has designed a whole bunch of these new watches that Breitling has going on that, to be honest, I think have completely turned the brand around. And it's gone from being a manufacturer of watches that I think, ew, to,
Yeah.
And this is one of them. As you say, everything feels very chunky, and when you see these watches, you see that the quality that you get there is really, really high. And at £3,950, you're getting really, really nice case and dial finishing for the money. Good work from Breitling. Also another brand that we wouldn't expect to be making some really nice dive watches is Glashütte Original.
Ooh.
You know those guys from Germany who make the very, very Germanic watches? They decided a few years ago, hey, why not make a vintage-inspired dive watch? And here it is. It's called the CQ. Now, I think they missed a trick here. They could have called it the CQ-Cumber.
Shame.
Yeah. That's why these watch manufacturers really should consult with me first before doing anything drastic.
Maybe it's because Benedict Cumberbatch is already a JLC ambassador and he might have taken exception to it. In the same way Lewis Hamilton doesn't like Hamilton watches. Benedict Cumberbatch might have seen the CQ Cumber and thought it was about him.
Oh, I thought you were pointing out the fact that people say I look like Benedict Cumberbatch. But that's fine.
Do you?
I don't think so, but a lot of people think I do.
Like...
You can't say that.
Yeah.
But really what they've done here is they've gone, what would a cool vintage dive watch look like? Who cares about heritage? Let's just make one. And so they've got big chunky numbers interspersed with stick indices, like those really fat hands with a pointed marker on the end of the minute hand. And the whole thing comes together to make a watch that actually looks really cool. Do you know what it looks like? It looks like a Seiko, but like a really luxurious Seiko.
Yeah, it's almost like strapped a Seiko and an Orient to both feet and it's jet skiing across the ocean, isn't it?
This is a 39.5mm steel case, although they do a bigger one at 43mm, 200 metres of water resistance, and it's got these stunning, beautifully finished caliber 39-11, which you can't see. Well done. You can get it with or without the faux age loom, and I think it's really nice on this canvas strap. And to be honest, this is the watch that Grand Seiko should be making for their dive watch, I think. The Sea Cucumber is one of the prettiest dive watches on the market. It is £8,200 though.
Oof.
Once again, I want to peel off one of those markers and spread it out over on a cracker and eat it. It's just so creamy and delicious looking, isn't it?
Yeah. And not weird at all. Right. My next one. This is a dive watch under 40mm in diameter, 39.5, and under £2,000 in price, 1,950. It's the Aqueous date from Oris. And it features that optimal of dials for a dive watch, smoky blue. Is it smoky blue or is it just very, very sunburst? Either way, it's very attractive. It's got other nice attractive features such as a domed sapphire crystal, and it's not in keeping of dive watch aesthetics, a cheeky mineral glass window on the back so you can see the automatic movement, which is an Oris 733, it's a base Solita movement. Inside it, it's very chunky, it's got a fat bracelet and some blocky crown guards there, but it's still very elegant as well. There's a photo of a chap in knitwear wearing it there, and it looks the business. So it's the perfect dive watch and everyday wear as well at the same time.
Choosing the Oris Aqueous as an answer to what dive watch should I get? It's like the ubiquitous answer. Oris take this dive watch and they throw some spice in it in different ways depending on which direction you want to go in. And I really like some of the options they got there, like the New York Harbour limited edition with the murky green Hudson colour. All it needs is just a shopping trolley floating by in it, or the Sun Wukong Artist Edition, which is actually a really attractive looking thing. It's like a little bit of art on your wrist, all in that price bracket of the lower end entry level premium luxury. And I think Oris are to really be admired, one for their constant support of environmental causes, but also in not just making monochromatic dive watches and actually throwing something a bit more interesting in there.
Absolutely.
Tom, for the last watch of this selection, I'd like to draw your attention to Zodiac. The Seawolf, the diver made by Zodiac that you see here, was first made in 1953, which was the same year as the first official dive watch, the Blancpain 50 Fathoms, and the same year as the Rolex Submariner. It's a really, really handsome looking thing, in the similar vein to that Breitling Super Ocean with the big chunky markers. Really, really nice colour palette. So you'll see that there's some crazy colour combinations like green and orange, or really turquoisey and then a minty green. Some great colour combinations that actually feel interesting. And again, not boring. This particular Seawolf, it comes in 40mm of steel with 200 meters of water resistance, and it gets the caliber STP 3-13, which is an Etaclone from the Fossil group. Around £1,599, and it's yours.
Yeah, lovely watches. Great selection. Way to go, Zodiac.
Well, there you go. Dear viewer and listener, Tom or me? Who do you think picked the best bunch of daily wear dive watches? What would you pick if you didn't see it in this list? Let me know down in the comments below. Please do like and subscribe as well, as it really helps, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.